please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, sponsored by BetMGM. It's Friday, February 19th, 2021. Alex Barutha here. No Shannon today. We have Ken only on the line.
All aboard.
This podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, RotoWire.com, and now, of course, YouTube. And we would appreciate a nice review on all those platforms. Ken, today you're wearing...
The video boy is the video boy for RotoWire. Please give us some comments and likes on YouTube. I need it. Just like Adam Silver plugging the All-Star game on YouTube. We need some comments. Help me, please.
The RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast on YouTube is the All-Star game of RotoWire content. Also, if you are watching the RotoWire YouTube page video, you will see that Ken is wearing a Michael Jordan embroidered Washington Wizards hat.
Bought at the then MCI Center for the Wizards. You know, this is the birthday week for Michael Jordan. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyway, so yeah, wearing my Jordan Wizards lid in honor of his airness.
Jordan on the...
But let's
Jordan
talk about...
I was just going to say, Jordan on the Wizards was just a very strange era of NBA
It was
history.
sad and weird. It was worlds colliding for me. I lived in Chicago at the time, but I grew up in the D.C. area. It was very weird. All my high school buddies were super excited, but it sure didn't feel right when I'm living in Wrigleyville, going to Chicago sports bars and seeing that happen. And then those were not the good Wizard unis either. That's when they went the navy and the black with the gold, and it was before the gold lame that Gilbert Arenas was wearing, but it was not Abe Poland's best work with the Wizards.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of when the Bucks went from that classic green and red to the like purple, green, and like gray.
Big Dog Robinson, I think, was on those squads.
Yeah, just like a very strange branding decision. Okay, let's get to the news. Anthony Davis, he's got that strained calf. He's got the Achilles tendinosis. And he was reevaluated the other day. I think yesterday, has now been ruled out for a full 4 weeks. So, yeah, March 19th, March 20th is kind of when we're hoping he'll return. But who knows?
Let's get a little more into his injury before we dive into replacements. Our good friends and former RotoWire coworkers, Andre Snelling and Stefania Bell, working together on articles over at ESPN Plus. Stefania Bell, owner of various medical certificates and qualifications, they wrote about Davis, quote, "There's a good chance Davis will be able to return to the court in the second half of the season and even contribute at a high level. The unfortunate news is that he's unlikely to come back after the All-Star break and immediately play at his typical level. While there are a lot of details and factors we don't know from a distance, it's reasonable to assume Davis could see minutes limitations when he returns, or reduced back-to-backs. Frankly, I think we'll see both. That's my wording. With an incremental return to his normal minutes." So I don't know, this is brutal to me. If you've got a Davis fan in your league who's maybe desperate and out of it, I'd make a deal.
Yeah, Davis hasn't been playing that well even before this injury, which would be my concern. I think he was like 21 points a game. He was kind of down across the board. So obviously, like, we know LeBron is going to step up. He has stepped up in these games without Anthony Davis. But do you think there's anyone we can add in fantasy from this? And we should note that Dennis Schroeder was out Thursday because of COVID protocol, so we don't know how much time he's going to miss either.
Well, Kuzma seems like the logical choice as he slips into the starting rotation. Got a double-double in last night's loss to the Nets. 16 points, 10 boards. He's actually shooting well, shooting 50% over his last 8 games. I think they'd love to get development time minutes on the floor for Kuzma. Longer term, I don't know if anyone's thinking longer term in LA, but it would be smart to get Kuzma these extra minutes. But you've always liked Horton Tucker.
I don't like Horton Tucker enough to buy his $30,000 rookie card off of eBay, like people were in the preseason, but I do like him. I think he has more upside than Kyle Kuzma, for example, just as a player. Good defender, 6'4". I think he has either a 6'10" he has like a 6'10" wingspan basically. And he's just like I think he's like 6'4", 220 with a 6'10" wingspan, just like an absurd athlete. Good defender, can pass. He had 9 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Thursday played 28 minutes. So Schroeder's out. Like Caruso's going to get some extra minutes, but Caruso's not like a stats guy.
I was going to say, does Horton Tucker get more of a boost from Schroeder being out and them needing some backcourt? You know, I mean, Horton Tucker more of a wing to me than a power forward.
Yeah, that's if Schroeder and Davis are out, then it's Horton Tucker gets minutes. If it's just Davis, then it's not as much Horton Tucker. It'd be more maybe Montrezl Harrell. Yeah,
I was going to say, we haven't mentioned Montrezl Harrell yet. He is a big minutes eater regular season. You don't really care about his struggling ISO defense in the regular season like you would in the playoffs. Big minutes eater. His rebounds up and down. This would be an excellent time for Harrell to get his rebounds back to Clipper level. But we'll see. But Montrezl Harrell didn't play that much against the Nets last night. Mostly, I guess, because the Nets like to go small a lot with just Jordan as their only center. But I think they'll throw a lot of minutes to Harrell. It's not like 82-year-old Marc Gasol can play more big man minutes.
No, not really. I think you'd want to do LeBron, Montrezl Harrell pick and roll kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you mentioned Montrezl Harrell didn't get a lot of run last night, but I think that will tick up. You want to talk about this game a little bit more, Ken?
Yeah. I mean, we said Kuzma started 34 minutes, playing well, shot 50% his last 8 games. Let's talk about on the net side of things, though. Harden, 11 dimes to Kyrie, just getting 5 assists. But I guess this harkens back to that post-game press conference on Valentine's Day when Kyrie said, I don't know, what is it? Kyrie just looked at Harden. I always picture like romantic hearts in the background on Valentine's Day. Kyrie looks across the flat earth at James, dreamy eyes, and says, "You are the point guard." And a passionate, I don't know, lover's glance. I don't know. And then Harden just takes off with it. To me, that answers the question, though, is everyone's like, well, who's going to take the biggest hit with these 3 playing together, KD, Harden, and Kyrie? I think it's Kyrie. If his assists are down, Harden's still going to get his shots. Harden will be more deciding who is shooting. Harden played nice early, when he was new on the team, but he's going to go back to being the beard. Don't you think, Alex?
I think so. I mean, Kyrie is the worst of the 3 players, right? He's worse than Durant. He's worse than James Harden. So if anyone is going to take the hit, I think it's probably Kyrie.
And who knows when he just goes AWOL again for personal reasons that don't get disclosed. He gets a 11-shot night and he just says, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, these 3 guys haven't even played that much together. KD's been out for various reasons. I don't think Harden's missed that much time, but Kyrie was out for personal reasons too. Yeah, I mean, they're a really good team. Obviously, Anthony Davis wasn't playing for the Lakers, but still a really good win for the Nets here because they are still playing a lot of like Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot and Landry Shamet minutes. And as much as I like Bruce Brown, you don't necessarily need 20 minutes out of him.
You like Bruce Brown in an NBA sense. You don't like him in a fancy sense. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
You're 3-and-D guy without the threes, really.
So speaking of Eastern Conference, supposedly juggernauts, the Bucks just dropped to 1-5 without Jrue Holiday in the lineup due to COVID-19. Ken, does this recent stretch make you feel any differently about them as far as maybe like contending goes?
Well, it sure highlights how awesome Jrue Holiday is, which everyone knows. I think it doesn't change my thoughts only because I think everyone still questioned after Milwaukee's big 3, what is there? We know Pat Connaughton gets crazy amount of minutes relative to his abilities. We'll say
that's fair.
I did have higher expectations for DiVincenzo this year, and he's been good some games and not so good other. He's still up and down, and so I guess that's where I'm disappointed. Boy, hate to see Forbes in the starting lineup, though. That just makes you wince. And serious, I realize, with Holiday out, they've got to make some decisions, but seeing Forbes in your starting lineup makes you just pause and I think wince is the right word.
Yeah, Forbes, 0.9 assists per 36 minutes. The man does not pass
That's a
the
lot
ball.
of touches at 36 minutes to not hit an open shooter.
Right.
There's a lot of cheap assists you get just by moving the ball to whoever's standing in the corner. Like the Bucks get a lot of cheapo assists on the three.
Right.
No.
I mean, he's shooting 47% from three, but it feels like when I watch him, he shoots 20% from three. So I don't really know when those threes are happening. DiVincenzo, you wish he was more of a numbers guy. A lot of his impact comes just in terms of not making mistakes on offense and playing good defense. Like he has the highest point differential on the Bucks at plus 11, but it's not helping your fantasy team. I guess, do you feel what teams are ahead of the Bucks definitively? Like for certain, you would take these teams ahead of the Bucks, not like a wishy-wash. Is it Brooklyn at this point?
It is Brooklyn. I mean, you just assume the big three will be healthy. You got to say the 76ers, of course. That's the advantage of playing in the East. Heck, we're got Boston playing 500 ball there, fifth out East. Pacers are essentially one game over 500. They're fourth. No one's really proven themselves outside of Philly. So I still the Bucks are respectable third, even though boy, it's becoming just a really ugly middle, 3-7, 3-8, really. If you throw the Hornets a bone.
Yeah, I think the Nets are definitively ahead of the Bucks. I still have kind of some questions about Philly, but again, like the Bucks losing to Philly in like 5 games would not shock me.
No.
It shouldn't happen, but at this point, I don't know. Like I love Drew Holiday, so I think once he's back, it'll be good. But Budenholzer is definitely on the hot seat. You mentioned your Celtics. They have lost 5 of their past 7 games. I mean, Marcus Smart's been out of the lineup. Do you feel like that is kind of the main factor?
It's definitely a problem. He is their defensive captain, and you can see they're not switching as well. The defense is worse without him, and he's actually a very underrated ball mover on the offensive side. But I think also Smart though also has the veteran gravitas to coach / yell at any of his teammates, and they know they have to listen. And they're missing that now. Walker hasn't earned the right this year to gripe at teammates. He was talking about they're not playing hard enough. He's right, but then he also has to look at himself as far as with his return from the knee issue. He hasn't been playing that well. What really bums me out, I think 2 things with the Celtics. One, you bring in Tristan Thompson. You're not expecting much offense, but Embiid just killed him in back-to-back games. He had like 43 and 39 or 38, I think. And then Jokic, even in the when we beat the Nuggets, Jokic lit him up as well. Now you expect Jokic and Embiid to go off, but look, just slow them down, Thompson. That's what you do. You rebound and you play D, and he hasn't been playing D. And then I think what we're also seeing is Ainge really should have moved up they had all those draft picks the last 2 years, and both years didn't move up, and now has these nice Grant Williams type players. But he's 1 pick away from Tyler Hero, and then this year 2 picks away from Tyrese Halliburton. Boy, either of those guys would look good in Celtic green when you had all those picks to move. Peyton Pritchard's been nice, but you're telling me Tyrese Halliburton wouldn't be a massive upgrade? But I'm sorry. This has been my Celtics rant of the week, and I apologize.
No, that's okay. I mean, they're obviously a team that's probably going to get, I think they are getting 2 All-Stars. So they're 100% worth talking about. I mean, one of the best young cores in the NBA still. I think you mentioned Embiid and Jokic. The Celtics definitely do have some issues in terms of like size. If they have to go through Philly in the playoffs, that's going to be a problem. Indiana might be a problem with Sabonis, and Miami could be a problem.
Time Lord's got to mature a lot. It could happen, but Time Lord's got to mature a lot between now and the end of the regular season. He has spurts where he's awesome, and he has spurts where it looks like he's thinking about playing video games.
Yeah. Kemba's health too. I think that's a driving thing. If Kemba can become 90% of who he was in Charlotte,
we'd be
or even that,
we would
right.
take that in a heartbeat. Oh my goodness, yeah.
In terms of a Western Conference team that you feel like, let's talk about the Jazz some, Ken.
We have to give the Jazz some love here, Alex. 24-5, best record in the NBA. But even more crazy, they've won 21 of their last 22, and Michael Conley has missed their last 6 games. By the way, questionable for tonight, so Conley has a chance of playing against the Clippers. But listen to these are the wins they've had in the 6 games with Conley out. At Indiana, then at home they beat Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, and Philadelphia. And then the other night, I think Wednesday, won at LA Clippers. That's impressive, and yet they don't really have certainly a fantasy superstar. Gobert ranks 45th in 9 category leagues. Mitchell ranks 69th in 9 category leagues. Beautiful team, a lot of continuity. Maybe this is the year where a continuity team has that much more of an advantage because everything else is just utter chaos.
I think so. If you watch them play for one half, you can kind of see why they have the best record in the league, just in terms of like the insane ball movement on the team, the great defense. They made the Bucks look bad, although a lot of teams have been making the Bucks look bad lately. But like especially
the quantity of passes the Jazz make where they barely even look where the ball's going because they completely know that shoot Bogdanovich or Conley or Mitchell's going to be in that exact spot. It's insane. You feel like they must do passing drills with blindfolds on.
I mean, they are someone I was listening to a podcast and someone compared them to kind of the old Spurs in terms of just like the ball movement and the good defense and the good habits. And I can kind of see that. Obviously like more star power than like the very, very recent Spurs. But it's in there. Yeah.
Better outside shooters.
Yeah. Utah against top 10 teams is 7-3 with a +4 point differential. And over the past 2 weeks are 4-0 against top 10 teams with a +15 point differential.
And O'Neal is a Bruce Bowen, basically, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue even a better Bruce Bowen.
He's better in fantasy for certain.
Yeah.
Bruce Bowen. Okay.
Not better in a bow tie, but yeah, better in fantasy.
No. Let's move on to the waiver wire. There are, we kind of talked about earlier, the LA situation. Check to see if Kuzma's on your waiver wire, maybe add him. If Schroeder gets ruled out for, the typical 10 days to 2 weeks, if it is a real COVID issue, then look into Taylor Horton-Tucker as well. But as has been the case throughout the past few weeks, what we're going to do, we're going to highlight someone available in about 50% of leagues and then highlight some people available in less than 25% of leagues, kind of a long shot option.
Or a long shot of the week, if you will.
Yeah, long shot of the week. So players available in 50% of leagues. My name here that I have written down is Wendell Carter Jr. People dropped him when he got hurt. And he's
understandably
back.
So. He wasn't lighting it on fire before he got hurt too.
Yeah, that's a good point. He hasn't been lighting it on fire, but he is back now. I think he's played 2 games, only rostered in 41% of ESPN leagues. 8 category leagues, he ranks 121st. So if you're in a 12 to 14 team league, you can probably you might be able to add him if you have a bench spot that you're not using. Like I have worse people than that on my bench for sure.
Yeah, well, and maybe the headline too is a lot of people picking up Thad Young, who's playing well the last couple of weeks, but you've got to assume this Bulls team would be crazy to hurt Carter's development by playing a lot of old man Young. Though they are desperate for some W's.
True. Yeah, they are trying to make the playoffs without a doubt. Okay, Ken, who do you have on your list?
I've got another name probably mentioned in waiver wire columns for the last 6 years. Jae Crowder, back as a starter for the Phoenix Suns, only rostered in 37% of leagues. Look, Crowder hits threes. He's really good in 9 categories because he almost never turns the ball over. Surprising rebounds as he gets a lot of his minutes now at power forward. Crowder's got the muscle to play power forward. I don't think Frank the Tank's going to give him a lot of minutes challenge. Do you, Alex, even though I know he's a Wisconsin Badger?
Frank Kaminsky is not that good.
Frank Kaminsky, not that good. Frank Kaminsky, side highlight, parents went to Northwestern, yet Northwestern didn't recruit him because we had no talent. Don't understand that at all whatsoever. Anyway, moving on. Jae Crowder, he's got 4 games next week with the Suns. Cameron Johnson's not playing that well lately either, so I think that also helps Crowder's case. But I just think they like his defense as well, so I see him sticking as a starter. So Jae Crowder is my available in 50% of leagues of the week. Who do you have as your long shot, Alex?
This week it's Marcus Morris. If you're in a Yahoo league, it's less of a long shot because he's 49% rostered there, but he's only 25% rostered in ESPN. So check your wire there. Ranked 84th in 8-cat over the past 2 weeks, averaging 17.6 points, 4.3 rebounds, 3.5 threes, and 1 assist. He's not a great fantasy player because he's kind of just like a points and threes guy. But again, you know, he's been playing better lately, started off the year slow. And there's no reason he should only be 25% roster. I mean, he's someone, if you're on a 4-game week, I mean, him and Jae Crowder, these are guys you can basically keep on your bench all year. And when they're in a 4-game week, you put them in the utility spot.
Right. And we really don't know. I mean, kind of, you know better than I, doing the hourly injury updates for RotoWire. We don't know the health of the front court for these Clippers.
Yeah, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, both, I think, questionable for tonight's game. And we know, you know, that team is always going to be cautious with the stars. So there will be some nights where, especially if you're in a daily lineup league, that Marcus Morris, I think, would even be more valuable because kind of the, you know, the in and out nature of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
And we have to give our standard brother / twin / same last names disclaimer. We're discussing Marcus Morris, who now goes by Marcus Morris Sr. Yeah. Not Markieff Morris, his twin brother playing for the Lakers, who we didn't even mention when we were discussing minutes available. But Davis out.
Markieff Morris is just
ready for the pension. Ready for the pension.
Yeah, I think he is. Even though he was good in the playoffs last year, he was great. He's better than Kuzma in the bubble. Which, if you're sensing a theme of me thinking everyone else in the Lakers is better than Kyle Kuzma, that is close to being the case.
Yes, but Kuzma's got all that sweet shoe money, so everybody loves Kuzma.
He got a nice contract, that is for sure.
Nice contract, famous girlfriend. Yeah. All right, my long shot.
Yep.
A name we've mentioned before, but I think it's important to point out because he's back after an absence. Theo Maledon, only 13% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Oklahoma City Thunder guard is back healthy after a 5-game absence. Last 2 games, he's started and played 34 and 28 minutes. He's actually started the last 8 games he's been available. So the Thunder are really investing in this 19-year-old. We know Shannon loves him. Shannon would be chiming in now if he were on the pod with us. Here are his averages last 8 starts. 11.1 points. Okay. 3.4 rebounds. Okay. 3.1 assists. 1.8 steals a game. And he's hitting 2.4 threes. So, hey, the Thunder have nothing to play for this year. Frankly, it's a great development situation for Maladon. They should give him as many minutes as he can take. If he's healthy, I love his upside.
Maladon is not even 20 years old yet. So if you are in a dynasty league, he is 100% someone that you may be able to steal, but you probably can't wait too much longer if you're trying to swoop in.
He gets 4 more games and
Yep. I also wanted to bring up, he's still kind of a long shot of the week because he's still not rostered very highly, but Grayson Allen, I brought him up maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
I picked him up during the pod in my in a Yahoo league, my grad school buddies, and had a great week for me. He was awesome. So I owe you a thank you. Thank you, Alex.
I appreciate that.
I don't like picking up dookies. I'll be honest. Do not like picking up dookies.
I think he still has kind of that, like, he's still got that stench on him. Yeah. You know, that Grayson Allen.
Well, also the stench from his Utah, nothingness.
Right. Yeah, you see him walk on the court as an opponent. You make sure to put extra ankle braces on because he'll try to step under your feet while you're shooting and dribbling. Right. But over the past 2 weeks, he's ranked 83rd in 8-cat leagues, 14 points, 4 threes, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. He is a good player. I will say that. And the Grizzlies are kind of desperate for like anyone to emerge as their 3rd or 4th best player. And
Dylan Brooks has had some injury issues too. That helped this week. I don't know how long that lingers, but
yeah, and he's a chucker, Dylan Brooks, and
yeah,
Grayson Allen at least.
They like Brooks though. They like his moxie. He's he harkens back to the grit and grind days for them.
Yeah. Okay. You have a dull suggestion of the week as well, which I like this segment.
Here's my dull suggestion because his game's a little dull. And this is the 3rd week in a row and I'm mentioning him, but no one's picking him up. Houston forward Jae'Sean Tate. He was my long shot last week and the week prior. He's a guard on Yahoo, by the way, but he's really been playing power forward or at least co-forward with Daniel House. On Wednesday against the Sixers, 19 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, and 3 steals. Christian Wood's still out and now reportedly walking with a limp. So we don't. I'm sure Wood's out at least another day. Tate's also shooting 60% over those last 8 games. Doesn't get a huge amount of attempts, but very efficient. Hence the dull label. But 25-year-old Ohio State rookie Jae'Sean Tate is our dull suggestion of the week.
You're right. He is playing more forward. Most of his minutes come at forward, but he is 6'4", 230. So he is kind of like
Which
a
is
PJ Tucker build.
Power forward in the Houston Rockets rotation the last few years. He might be center when Boogie gets hurt. Who knows?
Yeah, I like the Rockets, like kind of recent. It's just like, let's just, instead of tall, like lanky centers, let's just put like fire hydrants in front of people and dare them to run through them.
If we only had more PJ Tuckers.
Yeah. I would love to see like their entire roster full of guys like that. I think
Where do you think PJ Tucker ends the season, by the way? I actually think he's going to go to Boston, and we kind of going to regret it because we're going to realize, he had a lot of games where he didn't score at all.
Yeah, it depends on how much you want the ball in the hands of if the ball's in Tatum, Walker, Brown's hands all the time, you don't need PJ Tucker to score more than like 8 points. I think it makes sense, but I also think Boston needs a real center also.
Need more help. Yeah. They don't need another fake center. They need another actual
Exactly. Tucker would be nice on like the Bucks because the Bucks don't have a backup center at all. Like they don't have one. So, that would be it would be nice to have someone back there. Okay, let's move on to DFS. It is a 9-game slate. I'm very certain that takes into account the Dallas versus Houston postponement, which keep an eye on all of those games because I'm pretty sure Houston plays tomorrow as well.
Denver, Charlotte also postponed.
Yes. So Houston plays tomorrow as well in Houston. Keep an eye on the status of that game if you have guys on your team because who knows if that game is going to be played. And then also on Saturday, the Mavericks, maybe that's Sunday. The Mavericks have another home game sooner than later. So keep an eye on the situation in Texas. I think everyone kind of knows about the snowstorm situation and losing power and everything that's going on there. In terms of the slate, more specifically, the highest over-unders, we have 3 games over the 230 mark. OKC at Milwaukee. Milwaukee's on the second half of a back-to-back. Phoenix at New Orleans and Chicago at Philly. As far as the main injuries go, as always, half the time that we do this podcast, this segment becomes outdated by the time it's posted. But,
yes, use the RotoWire lineups page. By the way, did you know that traffic-wise, that's the most popular page on RotoWire?
I did. That's great because NBA injuries that's like 50% of the way you win DFS. Yes. It's all value plays based on that. You have less time to prepare. It's not like NFL where it's like, we have a week to just kind of look at stuff. As far as the questionable guys go, it's Kawhi, Paul George, Jaylen Brown, Draymond Green, Mike Conley. Probable are Ben Simmons and Evan Fournier. Doubtful is Steven Adams. And I will use that to say that my value play of the day is Willie Hernan-Gomez against Phoenix, the backup center in New Orleans. He's 4,400. he's been taking minutes from Steven Adams lately. I feel like that's kind of like an under, like no
Why
one
did Charlotte? How come Charlotte never gave Hernan Gomez a shot? They had no centers, and they never. Why didn't they give him a run? He was like their only young talent. That I thought that was smart when they traded for him from the Knicks. It's irrelevant for tonight's DFS. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, it is relevant because that speaks to the point of like, who he is because he is so good when he plays a little bit that he makes enough of an impact. So we have Steven Adams out. And like I mentioned, Hernan Gomez has been in the lineup lately. In 4 appearances this season where he's seen at least 20 minutes, he's averaging 31 fantasy points. So that's 12 rebounds, 12 assists, 12 rebounds, 2 assists. And the over-under on that game I mentioned is high as well. It's over 230. So I think he's probably, as far as I could tell, the best value on the slate overall.
Qualifies as center on FanDuel.
Yeah, and you only get the one center spot on FanDuel, so I think he will be extremely popular. Should have a really high roster percentage. Is anyone in particular sticking out to you, Ken?
Well, on the discount side of things, you mentioned both Paul George and Kawhi questionable. I want to see if Marcus Morris is going to keep his hot streak going. We know he's never Marcus Morris Sr. We know he's never shy about shooting the ball. They're going to need his points tonight. So I like Morris against Utah. And, wouldn't shock me if Utah blew him out, and they'd be happy to give Morris garbage minutes.
There's definitely blowout potential in that game. It'll be one of the most, that game, if Kawhi and Paul George do play, is very much a marquee game, I think, worth watching.
Yeah.
I'm with you on Marcus Morris, though. 5,300, that's like the perfect salary for him. And I think, even if those two do play, that it's not, you wouldn't be throwing your money away by keeping Marcus Morris in your lineup. As far as more high-priced guys go, you can't really look at the Joel Embiid versus the Bulls matchup without liking it. And I mentioned Wendell Carter Jr. being back, but he's not the guy to stop Joel Embiid. Like, he's a solid defender. He's not going to stop Joel Embiid, and Daniel Gafford's not going to stop Joel Embiid, and Thad Young is not going to stop him.
Who has Daniel Gafford stopped this year? Give me one matchup where everyone's like, Gafford, I like him in this line.
I can't give you a name. Embiid, 6 games this season with at least 60 fantasy points. Again, we would not be surprised if he hits 60 fantasy points in this game. He's a good cash play. He's a good GPP play. He's just Joel Embiid.
Yeah. You're high on some front court Pelicans.
Yeah, Zion, 8,700 against Phoenix. Phoenix has a good defense. That would be my main concern, is that they stick Jae Crowder on him. At the same time, I don't know if Jae Crowder's quick enough to guard Zion. So averaging 50 fantasy points across the past 4 games is Zion. I can't really stress enough how differently he's been playing lately. They're playing him in pick and roll. They got him at the top of the arc doing ISOs. He is not just a post player anymore. If you watch any sort of highlights from recently, like, he is handling the ball for them. Like, him and Ingram are in a very similar kind of, like, we give him the ball, we set a pick for him, we let him work. And Zion has been dominating that way lately. So I think he's kind of underpriced. I think
that'd be a good arm wrestle match. Jae Crowder versus Zion. There's some guns on those guys.
I thought you were saying Brandon Ingram versus Zion, and
no,
I'm like,
that'd be
you don't want Brandon Ingram injury report. Yeah, out for the season, arm wrestling match with Zion.
Jae Crowder mano a mano with Zion on the, what was the Sylvester Stallone movie when they taped their hands together? And, I don't know, it was like arm wrestle to the death or some stupid, I don't know. Sorry.
I don't know either.
Let's get back to DFS suggestions. I always like them. My man, Freddie VanVleet. Kyle Lowry, game time decision, ankle issue. Do you have any more insights on the Lowry ankle issue?
Not that I know of. No.
I know he's old. I know his ankle's hurt. So I like Fred VanVleet. Even if Lowry plays, is going to be definitely on a minutes restriction. He came out twice in the last game with ankle issues, then missed a game. So I like Freddie VanVleet, 8,000 against the Minnesota team that we know, frankly, has defensive issues.
Yeah, that I like those Raptors guys for sure. Yeah, Minnesota is us. They're a sieve. You can score on them.
And you got to wonder, are they really playing? Edwards is.
I know.
I know they want to develop Edwards, but are they already tanking this season? Like, is it already done? So many losing years for the Timberwolves.
I brought this up with Nick. I want to get your opinion on it. Who do you feel worse for, Bradley Beal or Karl Anthony Towns?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go with Towns due to the actual deaths in his family.
Okay.
It's hard to see.
Basketball situation.
Basketball-wise, I mean, Towns got what he wanted in bringing Russell in, right? And that now Russell's out 4 to 6 weeks, and frankly didn't play that great before he got hurt. They're making the moves that Cat wanted. Beal wants to be in Washington. He had his many windows to go nuts and demand a trade and hasn't done it. So,
yeah, at this point, that trade is going to end up being terrible. I think Wiggins is better than D'Angelo Russell, and they gave up their top 3 protected pick for this year.
Isn't saying a lot, frankly.
I know. Okay. Kind of in the same vein. It is time for your old man rant.
Remember when triple doubles were impressive? How did they get so cheap? Russell Westbrook had 2 this week for those Washington Wizards, while shooting an ugly 35% from the field and 0 for 5 from 3. He also shot 2 of 7 from the charity stripe those last 2 games and had 13 turnovers. Mason Plumlee this week even had his first ever triple-double this week against the Pelicans. 17 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, but 0 blocks, 0 steals, 0 threes. For Plumlee, that's 1 triple-double in 558 career games. The Wiz and Pistons won all 3 of these triple-double games, so maybe I should be quiet. I guess I pine for the days of Oscar Robertson. The Big O averaged a triple-double for the season in 1961 and 62. It's only his second year in the NBA with Cincinnati. He averaged 30.8 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 11.4 assists. Now that's a triple-double, and he did it all year. That year he shot 47.8% from the field. He should have been getting more shots. They didn't even track steals or blocks back then, but I assure you he got a hell of a lot. Russell Westbrook, you are no Big O. Work on your shot.
Kind of got into like a deep dive of Russell Westbrook's stats lately, and it was painful. Do you remember when he scored like 41 points and everyone was like, Westbrook's back?
Right.
And so, people were like, buy low on Westbrook. This is your last chance to buy low. And I was thinking, this is your last chance to sell high.
Right.
Right. So since he scored 41 points against the Nets, he is scoring 16 points on, listen to these shooting splits: 41, 15, 54. And 5.1 turnovers to 9.6 assists. He's also scoring only, this turned into Westbrook hate podcast. Westbrook is scoring only 0.62 points per possession in isolation. That is the worst in the league of anyone with at least 50 ISOs.
Really? The worst?
Yes. The worst in the NBA with anyone with at least 50 ISOs. And
50 ISOs is not a lot. You actually gave him a lot of room there to not be last.
The only worst marks over the past 5 years belong to the likes of Dylan Brooks, Josh Jackson, Kevin Knox, Willie Cauley-Stein, Raymond Felton twice, Jared Sullinger, Stanley Johnson, Nerlens Noel, Moutier, the list goes on.
That is an impressive list of disappointing players.
It really is.
Whenever you're mentioned with Jared Sullinger, there's going to be a wince-inducing fact coming out. Oh.
You know what they always used to say about Sullinger? Give him the ball, let him work. He's a walking bucket.
Now it's like don't get between him and the buffet.
That was the case when he was playing too, I think.
exactly. That's what I thought they always said. Yeah, don't get between him and the buffet. Oh.
For probably an all-time straight record, we have, I think, had almost no mispronounced names.
We're
I
on
think
a hot streak. We need next week it's the all European. We go all European player discussion, and we just butcher the heck out of every name out there.
Yeah, well, you need to start tanking this podcast a little bit harder.
We're going to do a review of Eastern European players, up-and-comers, next week. And just
we're doing a Miroslav Radulica career retrospective.
Give the people what they want.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the somehow continuously improving RotoWire NBA basketball podcast. It is presented by BetMGM. Ken, take us out of here.
Let's go to Chicago this week, where Zach LaVine got in a dust-up with Josh Jackson Wednesday night. When asked about it, LaVine said, "The only people I'm scared of is God and my dad." Attention passengers! This 2-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.